biggest advice is to be honest about it. I've seen so many parents who haven't told anyone because they're so embarrassed. Or I think talking about it and being honest about it has made it a lot better because people could be there for me. But to find some grief groups, find some people, being able to see people that are able to walk through the world and know that this is possible. It felt like we're all going to need to be in a hospital because we can't do this.
Welcome, everybody. It's time once again for the next chapter with Charlie Hedges, as he explores turning the page on his life and yours.
Hi there, and welcome to the next chapter with Charlie Hedges. I have a very special guest today. Our guest is Katie Rizzo, and she's the mother of a young suicide victim. In 2024, Katie's son took his life, and Katie soon discovered an unusual way of managing her grief, and that is through writing. She used creative writing. She has written a memoir, The Timesters of Grief, and a selection of deep poetry. Today, we're going to talk about grief and the salve of creativity. I have never discussed this subject on the show before, so check it out. I can't wait to talk to Katie about this. Katie, why don't you begin by telling us your story?
I'd love to. First of all, I don't know that Nicholas died of suicide. He did overdose, so I understand.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Clear.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
think he meant to, but not that matters in the grand picture of anything.
Well, it does in the introduction. I'm sorry. Do you want to redo the introduction and start over?
No, I think I'm okay, unless you want to.
No, this is fine.
Okay.
Okay.
So I am a mom. I was a high school teacher, a proud high school teacher. I taught AP Bio and Honors Anatomy. My son even took my class. We have 3 boys, and we had, I would say, just like a magical time with them growing up. And our son Nicholas played soccer. He got injured quite a lot. I think he was very anxious as a teenager, and he got injured a lot, had a lot of opioids given to him for his injuries, and he was also given a lot of benzodiazepines for his anxiety. And he went away to college to Colorado Mesa in Grand Junction, Colorado, and there I think he really got even more addicted. He graduated, came home, and within a few years he overdosed. And so I have taken some time off, and when it happened, I felt like life wasn't going to go on. Somehow I had the wherewithal to start writing things down and kind of documenting things because I really didn't understand what was happening. And I felt like a lot of the words people were saying were like, they just couldn't be real. So I would write them down, and for the first 9 months, I kept a journal, which I'd never done before. And then I started needing even more ways to express myself. And so I started writing sentences that were incomplete and not grammatically correct, which is a poem. And not
Did you do that before you wrote your memoir?
No, so this is all my memoir. So once I started writing poetry, I started posting it on the internet just
Okay.
a mom's
Yeah.
way of telling everybody, look what happened to us, and this beautiful kid is gone. And I had been writing some YA, so young adult fiction, and I had an agent, Connor Smith at Hesperides, and I sent him my journal, and I was like, is there something here? And the reason I did was because I had been going to a bunch of grief support groups, and it was so incredible to me how many moms and dads were not talking about it. They would say their kid died, but they wouldn't say what it's from, or they wouldn't tell people that their kid had passed away. And I realized, Nicholas's year, there were 80,000 parents, or there are 80,000 kids who died in the U.S. of overdose.
That you told me that number before, and it's
Yeah.
just it's unbelievable. I mean, I can't.
Yeah.
It sounds
Where
like
are
an
those parents?
overstatement.
Yeah, where are those parents? Well, a lot of them, some of them have like figured out that there is no shame in it, but some of them haven't. And so I sent it to my agent Connor, and I was like, somehow we need to help these. I mean, it was hard enough for me to get to a place where I could say, hey, my son overdosed. He had an addiction to benzodiazepines. But it's that shame is something big. And so I really wanted other people to hear the story and know about the shame and to help me remove it, because that's 80,000 parents in 2024 that went through this. So pretty much what it is it's a commercial airliner full of kids that goes down every day for 365 days during the year.
Oh my
And
God.
we're not talking about it. And it's making, I just feel like it just makes it worse.
Yeah, I cannot. As we've talked about, I just, as any parent in my state, I can't imagine. I just cannot imagine the grief. If something, I have one son, if something were to happen to my son, it would,
Yeah.
I was just watching him on TV. So, it was, I can't imagine it. But, one word that had not come to mind, and this is the first I've heard of it, is shame. Tell me about
Mm.
shame. What is the shame about, Katie?
Well, when Nicholas started struggling with the pills, my family just kind of closed in on itself, and it was like, we're not going to let anyone know. I there's so much shame in addiction. I don't know if you know what Al-Anon is, but it's a support group for people who love somebody with addiction. And the
Yeah, as
first
we
time
said, I'm an alcoholic, so
oh yeah,
I
yeah,
know
yeah.
Al-Anon.
That's right. So the first time I went to an Al-Anon meeting, I had to be pushed. I mean, Nicholas had um, done a bunch of stuff, and we were just trying to pretend and not let anyone see how bad it had gotten. I remember driving around the parking lot, making sure I didn't know anybody's car. We went to one kind of far from our house. When we walked in, I was like, if I see somebody I know, I am running.
Oh,
Um,
really? Is that the
yeah,
shame?
it's the shame. It's that I am I'm a mom of somebody who has a pill-sized hole that he's trying to fill with drugs and alcohol, and like, what's wrong with my kid? I think I've come to a place. It's taken me a really long time to realize that addiction is a physical dependence, and that it isn't just your psychological, like you need to hit your bottom and decide, no more pills for me. Um, I mean, that
Oh,
shame, like
yeah.
when Nicholas died, we my parents came over, and we were all sitting here, and one of my really good friends from Al-Anon was over, and I had sent them all Nicholas's obituary, which is this terrible thing to do. And my mom was like, I don't want you to put that he died of his addiction. She was like, I don't want people to know. And that was the one thing I wanted in his obituary. And I was like, it's staying, because I want, like, he's such a big, beautiful life. If he has to die, like, things need to change, right? And people need to know that you can die from this. And um as an alcoholic, did you feel like there was shame in that? Because I feel like there's just so much, at least for Nicholas, there was. He didn't want anyone to know that he was struggling with this.
You couldn't help but know. There was no hiding for me, because I was public and I could do my job well. I was the executive coach of CEOs of very large companies, and I was one of those drinkers that did not drink during the day, and I drank only at night. And my problem with drinking was that not that my problem was that I couldn't say no. There was no end. There was no stop until, it just, I couldn't take anymore.
I feel like Nicholas was at the point where everyone knew, but he was lying enough to himself to think like, oh, nobody can tell.
He really thought that.
Yeah, I
And
think
was
he
that
did.
important to him?
It was. He really wanted everyone to think that he had his act together, that he was going to be successful. I mean, I think every morning he woke up and he would call me and be like, okay, I'm gonna, he was working at a company where he had clients and he was paid on commission. He was like, okay, this month the commissions are going to be really high. I'm turning a new leaf. You and dad are going to be proud of me. And I kept saying, like, we are proud of you. Like, I don't know if it's just youth or if all youth has felt this way, but just that wanting to earn their worth. And I don't know how to get somebody to believe that they're worthy of love and belonging just by being here. But the more he did drugs and the more the chaos that surrounded him,
Yeah,
the less he believed he was worth
yeah,
anything.
yeah. Oh my God. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, me too. Me
That
too.
is, do you have other children, Katie?
Yeah, I have two other sons. Yep. Yeah. They're both in grad school. So, and they're doing okay. I think it's been a great big journey for me to learn that my kids' success or failure isn't because of me. One of my sons goes to Columbia and they said the first day, they're like, congratulations, parents, you've done a great job. You've done it. And I was like, well, I have one at Columbia. I have one who's getting his PhD in astrophysics, and I have one who's so addicted to pills he died. Like, which mom am I, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah, addiction is it's very complicated. It begins at childhood, but who
Mhm.
knows how at childhood and where and how that child perceives life. I know mine was abandonment and rejection and living with different families and finally getting adopted and going through, so there's lots of things that I just wanted. There's pain from that, and so I think the addicted person is in pain, is a pained person, and our drug of choice, whatever that happens to be, because mine wasn't only alcohol. I
Mhm.
did I did all kinds of things, but it was to numb that pain. It was
Yeah.
just strictly to numb that pain. And then it became a habit to where,
Right.
it grows on, it feeds on itself.
Yeah. I don't know what Nicholas's trauma was, and I have a therapist, and she and I talk all the time, and she says it could be just not a capital T trauma. It could be a little T trauma.
Oh,
But honestly, I feel like uh, the amount of benzodiazepines that he was prescribed for and opioids by a doctor for his when he would get injured, but the benzos were for so benzos are
injured
Xanax
from sports.
from sports, yeah. The benzodiazepines were for anxiety. Um, when when he
What is the
um,
what is the what is the generic name of a benzodiazepine?
like Xanax.
Xanax. Okay.
Yeah. When Nicholas had like an event and he had to go to the he was detoxing and he ended up in ICU for 5 or 6 days with swelling of the brain. He didn't know who anybody was. And you can get that from Xanax. I mean, who knew? My husband went to Nicholas's apartment and found all of Nicholas's pill bottles that were prescribed to him, and he came home with this huge, like a reverse Santa Claus with a huge bag over his shoulder. So I feel like your brain changes at some point, and I don't know
Yeah.
that we could reach in and get him. I know that he tried fentanyl, and that scared him, and he stopped. But I feel like drugs these days, I don't know. In my era, like we would try pot or whatever, and we weren't going to die. But now these things are pretty potent and
They're
lethal.
lethal.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
they are.
yeah,
And they're much more, if I may use the word addictive, they're much more addictive than pot is.
yeah.
Um, and they stay with you longer and require more use. Was he using it while he was working?
I think he was. Yeah, I think that he was. Yeah, he
Yeah,
was.
yeah. So how does so I titled this show, we wanted to talk about your writing. Tell
Okay.
me how your writing helped you process this whole
Well,
this whole
I'm a scientist, right, by trade. So I taught anatomy and physiology at the community college and at the high school and AP bio. And the first 6 months, I would just sit there and try to figure out, like, how is it that this happened? And logically, I couldn't get anywhere. Um, so somehow art just kind of clicked in my head, and I would think about we have a ton of turtles that are an invasive species in our lake here, and the turtles kind of reminded me,
in your lake.
not my lake, like it's a public lake in the lake
Oh, okay. I'm
near
thinking,
here. Yeah, yeah,
my goodness, where do you
yeah.
live?
No. So, but people have been throwing their pet turtles in, and now we have, turtles are overtaking the lake. And what do you do with invasive turtles, right? You don't want to kill them. And I don't know, it just started reminding me a lot of Nicholas's addiction. It was just one pill. It was just one turtle. And I started writing poems about the analogies between the turtles and Nicholas's addiction. And I started posting them because it felt like the most real thing that I could put my hands on. Um, I got to a point where it just felt really good to sit down and think about something beautiful about Nicholas and our memory and write a poem about it. And it felt like the only real thing that besides my two kids and my husband, um, not that it was a way to communicate with Nicholas, but I'm not saying it wasn't. It still feels like it's pretty important.
Yeah, I find that interesting that you were thinking positively. You weren't thinking negative thoughts about Nicholas. You were thinking positive thoughts about him.
Well, I mean, he was a pretty big, beautiful kid.
Yeah,
And the fact that the world doesn't have him in it seems like, I don't know. I feel like that's a poem in itself. So my husband started playing the guitar. He'd never played the guitar before, and he's taking lessons, and he goes to little concerts with 7-year-olds and stuff. And I feel like our house has become this place where we're in a liminal space, right? We're not here on Earth totally. We're like half here and half with Nicholas. And I listen to my husband play his music to Nicholas, and it feels like, there's a little piece of magic there.
And it's been about a year and a half. Is that right? Did we?
Yep, or a little bit more. Yeah, yes. In September, it will be 2 years.
Yeah, you've done a lot in the early phases of going through the overdose process. You have, not many people have done as much creative writing and thinking. They've got therapy, but you're very proactive.
Well, when my husband Nick came home and he had seen Nicholas in his apartment, I heard his crying, and I realized that it was life or death for my family too. And I don't want the drugs to get all of us, right? It took Nicholas, and that's the biggest shame. But I don't want it to take my other two kids and my husband and I. And so we started going to grief groups right away. I mean, I knew about Al-Anon, so I was like, well, there have to be groups out there for people who've lost a kid. And we've joined a bunch of them.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. Yeah. The one that I really like is called Lit Love in the Trenches. It's for people who've lost a kid to addiction. And there's something really meaningful about seeing somebody who is surviving it, and then you can survive it too.
What do you find as commonalities in that, Katie, among the people in
Among all of
that
us,
group?
well, I feel like all of us are trying to have a next chapter that is holding our loved ones in one hand and the world in the other. I think all of us feel like, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I definitely feel like I'm never going to be as happy as I was before. And I want my kids, my other two, to get married and, have a happiness in their world. And so somehow that must mean I better get my act together so they're not trying to take care
Yeah.
of me. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're always in grief, then that means you're ignoring your other two children.
Yeah. And that I can model healthy grief. Like I thought so my two boys are in their early 20s, and when I started posting my poems about Nicholas and his addiction, I thought that my two boys would be like, no more. But so far as I know, they both have said, no, you can keep doing it. It's good for me to see what you're thinking. They're both really positive about it, which is interesting.
How do you mean positive about it? Positive about what you're doing?
Well, just that I'm putting myself out there and trying. Like neither one of them are
Yeah.
asking me to shrink and not put my poems out there, or I don't know. Maybe it's because our family spends so much time pretending like, oh, Nicholas isn't addicted. We're fine. We've got this. That now just having it out there, it just feels like a breath of fresh air.
How do you, here's something that's curious to me. How do you prevent the death of Nicholas to not be the subject of the day every day?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, my husband gets up and goes to work every day. Both my boys have their lives. I don't know. Billy Bob Thornton says that because his brother died, and he said that every day he's 50% happy and 50% sad. And I feel that. Like I feel like I can hold the terribleness that Nicholas isn't here in one hand, but then you can also see that there's a lot of beauty in the world, and there are reasons to keep living. Do you want me to read you a poem? I'll try to make it fast. Is that okay?
You don't have to make it fast. I would love to hear a poem.
Okay.
Read it at your
Okay.
normal speed.
It's called One-Sided. We were the perfect family in our flat clothes and posable joints. At nights, I'd rearrange our paper doll family, worried about how we looked on the outside. I've buried those cardboard images alive in the garden. Sometimes they wiggle their hands through hard-packed dirt. Why isn't the saying, you come from flesh, and to flesh you will return?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, you're sweet.
Read it again, one more time for our
Okay, I'd love to.
audience.
One-sided. We were the perfect family in our flat clothes and posable joints. At night, I'd rearrange our paper doll family, worried about how we looked on the outside. I've buried our cardboard images alive in the garden. Somehow, they wiggle their hands through hard-packed dirt. Why isn't the saying, you come from flesh, and to flesh you will return?
That's beautiful. I think of my relationship with my son, and I've written about this. So my son and I, I've coached my son playing baseball since he was 5 or 6 years old. And so we would go to tournaments, and they would they would be long drives, two to, not super long, not all day, but 2 to 3 hour drives. And it would be him and I by ourselves because mom came later. We had to get to the game early, so she came later. And so it was just him and I. And Katie, we had so many conversations. And we've talked about that today, about our conversations then he is today my closest friend. There is no outside, this is what Austin looks like. There is only an inside, this is the relationship that we have.
Well, I know those rides, and I've had those same exact rides for soccer, going out
Oh,
to
yes.
a million times.
And you have great conversations.
Oh, yeah. And I remember when my last drive to reach 11, and I bawled the entire way home. Not about the soccer, but about the time together. Like, how do I get this time back?
Yeah. Well, you just don't stop.
As long as they're here, yeah.
Yeah, as long as
Maybe
they're
that's what
here.
my poetry is like, hey, let's get in the car. Let's go to Reach 11. Let me tell you some things.
Reach 11. What is Reach 11?
It's a soccer place. It's like where the boys would go play soccer. It's in Phoenix. So
Tell me your day. You spend much of your day writing.
I do some things that I've learned about grief, especially like traumatic grief, is that it has to be metabolized. Kristen Seeberger from Lit taught me that, and by that I need to move. Like, the more I sit around, the worse like grief can kind of settle in. And so my husband and I have made a commitment to exercising every day. So we try to exercise, and now it's Phoenix, so we try to move our bodies in the morning before the sun gets up. And I think that really does help with grief. I try to make sure I am in community because I found that I just need it a lot. When Nicholas died, the first person that I talked to about it, besides my husband, was my friend from Al-Anon, and she flew right in, and just the importance of those kind of bonds. I can't tell you how important they are. And there's an author, Colin Campbell, who wrote Finding the Words, and he lost both of his kids to a drunk driver, and he talked about community. And he said, when somebody asks you to do something, as long as you're safe, you do it. And so that's something I do. If anybody asks me to do something, I usually say yes. Whether it's driving somebody to somewhere, like to their doctor's appointment, or, for a walk. So community is important too. And then I try to write. I usually do my best like poetry, or feel Nicholas closest in my poetry in the morning. So I try to make sure I have a big chunk of time to write with him. And then usually in the afternoons, we might exercise again, or we've been going to a grief group, or an Al-Anon group. So
Do you find, I'm curious, do you find space or a place to write about, when you're writing poetry about Nicholas, to write about your other two sons?
I do. Usually, sometimes I feel like my memories of Nicholas are with the three of them. Like I don't.
Right.
Nicholas came in a pack of three, and it's really hard to take them apart. And because of that, I really try to like reach out to them and see how they're doing, and not try to push too hard, but just to let them know, like, I'm here if you need me.
So tell me, as I feel our show coming to an end here, tell me, what advice do you have to give parents who are recently going through the loss of a child? Just to say the loss of a child, I don't even want to say those 4 words. Those are so difficult.
I guess my biggest advice is to be honest about it. I've seen so many parents who haven't told anyone because they're so embarrassed, or I think talking about it and being honest about it has made it a lot better, because people could be there for me. But to find some grief groups, find some people. I know I said this, but it really is true. Being able to see people that are able to walk through the world and know that, like, okay, this is possible. It felt like that. I was like, okay, we're all going to need to be in a hospital because we can't do this. My husband and I went to a grief group in Sweden for parents who lost their children to addiction. And I think there were like 13 or 14 other parents there. And to see them, still loving their kid and surviving and trying to make sense of the world, that was important. And so I would say, find people to support you. Read really good books. Colin Campbell's book, Finding the Words, is a great one.
But it is relational. I've read our whole life is better. It's intended to be relational. We are not intended to be isolated introverts. Although I'm an isolated introvert, I still have people. I just went through some radiation, and I had a friend who lives a couple hours away, and she says, "Do you need a friend? Do you need me to come over and see you?" And I thought, how sweet of her. Those are just...
Did you say yes?
I haven't responded because I haven't decided if I want her to.
Right? I know. It's funny. Like, I think addiction and grief both make you want to be independent. Like, I've got this, I have it. And maybe, I don't know why our first instinct is to say no. Because
I didn't. That was my first instinct, to say no, and I knew that wasn't the right instinct. Well, because I'm still recovering. I'm still recovering. We did this I did this 28 days of radiation, then went on a cruise for 2 weeks, and I've been home for half a week, and I still haven't recovered. It takes 6 weeks to recover from the radiation. And so after spending all the time that I did away from home and away from when I wanted to be home, that was difficult.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want that to prevent me from saying yes to my friend, let's get together and chat.
She'll probably get more out of it than you will, too.
How sweet. Katie Rizzo, it's been so great talking to you. You have so much insight, and I think, I really want to. I will push, and as I publish the podcast, I will push the Timesters of Grief, because I think you have so much to say, especially in early stages. Most people are still in shock and almost denial, and you jumped right into the reality of it right away.
It's life or death. It really is. It's life or death.
God bless you.
You too.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the next chapter with Charlie, and wish you well, and join us at our next time. But be sure to tell your friends about Katie Rizzo. Bye for now. Until next, this is Charlie Hedges, signing off.